Chapter 1: Ego, Pride, and the Frequency of Power. I believe ego is the misuse of pride. When pride becomes self-centered, it mutates into ego. When ego drifts out of alignment, it turns into control, fear, and insecurity. Ego is not the enemy. Ego is necessary on the right frequency. If ego didn't exist, there would be no skyscrapers, no airplanes, no corporations. Those things require belief, confidence, and vision. But none of them work alone. They only stand because every part stays in sync. The moment one piece stops cooperating, the whole structure fails. People are no different. When someone tries to control others, it's a mirror. It reveals a lack of self-control. We all have free will. Making it your job to dominate someone else's will is compensation for inner chaos. True power doesn't control outward, it stabilizes inward. I have pride in who I am, lion-hearted, Leo energy, built to lead. That pride makes me a perfectionist and my own harshest critic. My ego balances that. It's my biggest fan. The danger isn't ego. The danger is abusing the energy. Too much ego and you rule dishonorably. Too much pride and you reject help, turning blessings into curses. Balance is everything. Chapter 2: Control is a confession. The need to control others is never strength. It's a confession. It tells you exactly where someone lacks mastery, inside themselves. Control doesn't come from power. It comes from fear. Fear of being overshadowed, fear of being exposed, fear of losing position. When you are solid in who you are, you don't gatekeep. You don't compete unnecessarily. You don't feel threatened by someone else's growth. You assist, you align, you move forward. I've never been a gatekeeper, not because I'm generous, but because I'm secure. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. Nobody can be better than me at being me, and nobody needs to be. We all have purpose. Mine is simply mine. If I help someone on my journey, I'm not losing ground. I'm fulfilling it. That's legacy. Self-control is the only control. What you try to control will eventually control you. People, outcomes, timelines, perception. The only control that scales without breaking you is self-control. And real self-control isn't rigid. It isn't fear-based. It isn't obsessive. Self-control without fear is self-awareness. When you're aware, you're prepared. But preparation has a shadow. Prepare too much, and you micromanage yourself into slow failure. Fear disguises itself as productivity. Overthinking pretends to be intelligence. Procrastination pretends to be patience. But it's all the same frequency. Fear. Execution breaks that frequency. Execution creates feedback. Feedback creates solutions. Solutions create momentum. Stagnation comes from waiting to feel ready. Progress comes from moving while imperfect. Legacy isn't noise. Your life is your fingerprint on society. You choose what you leave behind. Street stories and jail fame don't make children proud. Unless you plan to hand them the same cage. The real flex is exit. The real power is transcendence. We made struggle look cool. We made being underpaid look glamorous. We packaged limitation for likes. That's the digital age illusion. Legacy isn't what impresses strangers. It's what your children inherit without explanation. The trap of overshadowing. Fear of being overshadowed is a sign you're out of place. When you're aligned, someone else's light doesn't dim yours. It clarifies it. Competition is a human program installed early. School, sports, grades, credit, attention, validation. Most of it was built from fear, not truth. Trying to one-up the next person is counterproductive. First, comparison steals joy. Second, they probably don't care as much as you think. Control dies when identity stabilizes, and when identity stabilizes, leadership becomes effortless. Chapter 3. The mirror that lies. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. That's the part most people resist. Some people spend their entire lives chasing their reflection in a broken mirror, not realizing the mirror they're using belongs to yesterday. Yesterday's mirror cannot reflect tomorrow's face. Life is choice, and one of the most important choices you make is which mirror you stand in front of. Two ways of seeing. There are two sets of eyes. One sees the physical world, the material, what's visible, measurable, and immediate. The other sees frequency, pattern, meaning. The physical eye moves toward what it's attracted to in the world: status, comfort, attention, pleasure. The real eyes, the ones you realize with, move toward what you're attracting energetically. What you chase is chasing you. What you think, you attract. This is how you know thoughts are not just thoughts. They are things. Some are authored by you. Some are downloaded from your environment. Some are inherited, absorbed, or repeated unconsciously. Energy is information. Animals use it. Nature uses it. Humans pretend they don't, then wonder why life feels random. Perception is the gatekeeper. What you perceive, you receive. Perception decides what gets through the gate. Two people can live the same event and walk away with completely different outcomes because they processed it through different lenses. One sees limitation, the other sees instruction. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. Reality doesn't change first, perception does. And once perception shifts, behavior follows. Then results follow behavior. This is why chasing outcomes fails. Outcomes sit at the end of the chain. Identity sits at the beginning. The comfort of a false reflection. Most people don't want truth. They want comfort. So when the mirror shows something they don't like, they borrow someone else's reflection. They follow templates, personalities, lifestyles. Entertainment thrives here. When the image in your mirror doesn't match who you want to be, it's easier to imitate someone else than confront yourself. But imitation always produces friction. You end up chasing a life that doesn't fit your frame. And the body knows when it's out of alignment. That's where unexplained frustration comes from. That's where constant chasing comes from. You can't live someone else's reflection without paying interest. Identity before improvement. There will never be a day you wake up and need to be someone else. Not in this lifetime. So the question isn't how to become better than others, it's how to become honest with yourself. That part isn't simple if you don't know yourself. The escape is study. Study yourself as deeply as you study who you admire. The results will be so personal, you'll guard them with your life. That's when imitation ends. That's when identity stabilizes. And once identity stabilizes, progress stops feeling forced. Chapter 4. Fear, execution, and slow failure. Fear rarely announces itself honestly. It doesn't say, "I'm afraid." It says, "I'm preparing." It says, "I'm waiting for the right time." It says, "I just need a little more information." Fear is patient, and that's why it's dangerous. Most people don't fail loudly, they fail slowly. The illusion of preparation. Preparation feels productive, it feels responsible. But preparation without execution is just fear wearing a suit. When you prepare too much, you don't become precise. You become controlled by hesitation. That's micromanagement turned inward. You manage yourself into paralysis. Stagnation doesn't come from lack of talent. It comes from waiting to feel ready. Readiness is a feeling. Execution is a decision. Procrastination is a frequency. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's misaligned energy. It lives on the same frequency as fear. You don't procrastinate things you believe in. You procrastinate things that challenge your identity. Execution forces feedback. Feedback forces adaptation. Adaptation forces growth. That's why fear hates movement. Movement exposes illusions. Execution creates solutions. Most people want clarity before action. That's backward. Clarity comes from action. You execute. You observe. You adjust. Solutions are revealed in motion, not in thought. This is why people who move imperfectly outpace people who think perfectly. Momentum doesn't come from confidence. Confidence comes from momentum. The cost of waiting. Slow failure feels safe. No risk, no rejection, no visible loss. But the cost compounds quietly. Opportunities expire, skills rust, belief erodes. Fear doesn't destroy you overnight. It convinces you to stay comfortable long enough to decay. That's the real threat. Chapter 5. The app you co-created. Think of yourself as a user inside an app you co-created. You didn't build the universe, but you didn't arrive as a passive download either. You are the interface. You operate the system. You decide what runs in the background. You choose what gets permission. Call the creator whatever you want. God, the universe, source. Names don't change function. The creator designed the architecture. You were given access, responsibility without blame. The app is user-operated. That means your experience isn't random, but it isn't fully controlled either. You control inputs. You don't control every outcome. That's the balance most people miss. Some people treat life like a rigged system and stop using it. Some complain constantly about how broken it is. Some search for a more comfortable version. Some delete themselves completely. All of those are misunderstandings. The system wasn't designed to be comfortable. It was designed to be responsive. Bugs, viruses, and misinterpretation. Every system has bugs. Every system attracts threats. That doesn't mean the creator failed. It means the system was built to evolve. Viruses don't exist to destroy strong systems. They exist to expose weak code. The mistake is assuming every disruption is an emergency. Most disruptions are upgrades trying to install themselves. Faith as system trust. Faith isn't blind belief. Faith is trust in the architecture. It's knowing that no long-term threat exists without a corresponding solution already embedded in the design. When you understand that, panic disappears. You stop reacting emotionally to every obstacle. You stop personalizing temporary failures. You troubleshoot instead, collaboration over collapse. The solution was never quitting the app. The solution was collaboration. Clarify the problem, adjust the settings, remove corrupt patterns, relaunch. That's growth. That's maturity. You weren't sent a virus to destroy you. You were sent a signal to upgrade your operating system, your brain, your habits, your patterns of thought. What feels like sabotage is often instruction. Chapter 6. Viruses, faith, and upgrades. Most people misread adversity. They see a virus and assume the system is under attack. They feel resistance and assume something has gone wrong. But in strong systems, pressure isn't proof of failure, it's proof of engagement. You don't upgrade what you don't intend to keep. Why the system pushes back. Weak systems collapse under stress. Strong systems adapt. The universe doesn't test randomly, it tests proportionally. Pressure shows up where growth is possible. Resistance appears where capacity is being expanded. If you were truly fragile, the system wouldn't challenge you, it would bypass you. The fact that you're still here, still being pushed, means the architecture expects more from you, trauma as corrupt code. Not all viruses are external. Some install themselves quietly through experience. Fear patterns, survival habits, beliefs formed under pressure. Trauma isn't the event, it's the unexamined code left running afterward. When those patterns go unchecked, they sabotage performance. They slow response time. They distort perception. They hijack decision-making. This is why people repeat cycles they claim they want to escape. They never removed the code. Faith without fantasy. Faith doesn't mean pretending everything is fine. Faith means trusting the process while doing the work. You still diagnose the issue. You still update the system. You still take responsibility for your settings. Faith is not avoidance. It's confidence that effort won't be wasted. That's different from blind optimism. The upgrade moment. Every upgrade asks the same question. Will you cling to what's familiar or align with what's functional? Upgrades often feel like loss before they feel like clarity. Old identities stop working. Old environments lose compatibility. Old habits glitch under pressure. That's not betrayal. That's evolution. The system doesn't care about comfort. It cares about coherence. When people quit too early. Some people confuse friction with failure. They hit resistance and assume they're off path when they're actually on the exact edge of expansion. So they retreat, they rationalize, they downgrade themselves to survive. But survival mode was never meant to be permanent. You don't install upgrades while running outdated software. At some point, you either evolve or keep repeating the same error loop. Chapter 7. Seasons, roots, and the garden. Life moves in seasons, whether you acknowledge them or not. Growth, rest, expansion, release. The mistake isn't change, the mistake is resisting it. When you work against the season, you don't stop time. You sabotage your harvest. We are built like plants. We like to think we're separate from nature. We aren't. We are plants with nervous systems. The body is the plant. The spirit is the roots. One cannot thrive without the other. Ignore the roots and the plant weakens. Ignore the plant and the roots can't express. Balance isn't optional, it's structural. Reading the signs. Plants communicate stress through their leaves. Discoloration, wilting, stunted growth. Humans do the same. Burnout, irritability, numbness, confusion. Those aren't failures, they're signals. Signals that the environment is wrong, or the nutrients are off, or the roots are tangled. Ignoring the signs doesn't preserve strength, it guarantees deficiency. The cost of staying comfortable. Some people create environments that slowly kill them, then defend those environments because change feels threatening. Comfort in the wrong conditions leads to stress. Stress leads to decay. Decay feels normal when it happens slowly. That's how people die while still breathing. Focus on your own garden. What works for one plant can destroy another. A cactus and a tomato cannot share the same strategy. Different soil, different water, different sun. This is why comparison is toxic. Looking at someone else's garden and copying their methods without understanding your own nature guarantees poor results. Your lineage matters. Your temperament matters. Your purpose matters. Thriving requires alignment, not imitation. Transmission is everything. What you transmit is what you receive. Focus on problems, and you get better at finding problems. Focus on solutions, and your capacity expands. This isn't spiritual fluff, it's feedback logic. You train your inner system the same way you train any intelligent machine. It responds to what you reinforce. Chapter 8. Comparison kills kingdoms. Comparison feels harmless at first. It disguises itself as inspiration, as motivation, as ambition. But comparison isn't fuel, it's corrosion. It doesn't build you, it dissolves you, the theft you don't notice. Comparison steals in two directions. When you compare upward, you inherit inadequacy. When you compare downward, you inherit arrogance. Either way, you lose alignment. You stop responding to your own signal and start reacting to someone else's broadcast. That's how kingdoms fall, not from invasion, but from imitation. Why envy is so efficient. Envy doesn't need action to grow, it feeds on observation alone. The more you watch someone else's progress, the more disconnected you become from your own. Energy follows attention. What you study grows. What you neglect weakens. This is why excessive consumption without creation leads to resentment. You're watching other people live out paths that were never yours. Ego and pride in disguise. Comparison corrupts both ego and pride. It inflates ego when you feel ahead. It poisons pride when you feel behind. Neither state produces clarity. True pride is internal. It comes from integrity, doing what you said you would do. Ego becomes destructive when it needs witnesses. Imitation is lazy survival. Most imitation isn't intentional. People copy because it feels safer than originality. Templates reduce risk. Following feels efficient. But imitation creates friction because it ignores design. You weren't built to run someone else's operating system. That's why copied lives always feel exhausting. The collapse of self-trust. The deeper comparison runs, the harder self-trust becomes. You second-guess instincts. You delay decisions. You outsource identity. Eventually, you don't know whether your desires are yours or inherited. That confusion creates paralysis. And paralysis looks like procrastination, bitterness, or constant pivoting. The exit is focus. The way out isn't isolation. It's devotion. Devotion to your own process, your own pace, your own standards. When you focus fully on your own garden, comparison starves. Kings don't collapse from lack of resources. They collapse from divided attention. Chapter 9. Art, Identity, and the False Mirror. They say art imitates life. But what they don't tell you is this: your life is already art. Every thought you return to, every belief you reinforce, every choice you repeat. You are constantly creating, whether you're conscious of it or not. Who's holding the brush? Most people don't suffer from lack of talent. They suffer from lack of authorship. They let influence replace intention. They scroll. They absorb. They compare. And slowly, without noticing, they begin building a life based on references instead of truth. That's how people end up bootlegging someone else's vision. Not maliciously, but unconsciously. Entertainment thrives on this. When the image in the mirror doesn't reflect who you want to be, it's easier to adopt someone else's reflection than confront the gap. But borrowed images always come with borrowed pain. The cost of living through templates. Templates feel efficient. They remove uncertainty, but they also remove discovery. When you follow a template, you stop asking, does this fit me? Does this align with my nature? Instead, you ask, does this work for them? That question guarantees misalignment. Your nervous system knows when you're living off script. That's where restlessness comes from. That's where chasing comes from. Competition is a misunderstanding. Trying to outdo the next person is a misunderstanding of purpose. Comparison already failed you. Competition just accelerates the loss. You were never meant to win someone else's race. The tragedy isn't losing, it's exhausting yourself running in the wrong direction. Study the source. The way out isn't more motivation, it's intimacy with yourself. Study yourself as deeply as you study who you admire. Your triggers, your curiosities, your resistance, your natural rhythm. The results will be so specific they'll feel sacred. That's when identity solidifies. And when identity solidifies, confidence stops needing witnesses. Seeing yourself clearly. Some people never truly see themselves. They think the mirror is the image. It's not. The mirror is the body, not what's inside it. When you go inward and untangle the roots, the reflection changes without force. Darkness shapes some, light shapes others. Both are teachers. If you know darkness, use it as contrast, not identity. If you don't know light yet, now you know what frequency you're seeking. Fear disappears when direction becomes clear. Chapter 10. Defeating the villain within. Every story has a hero and a villain. Most people spend their lives fighting the wrong one. They battle circumstances. They blame people. They curse timing, luck, systems, and fate. But the real conflict was never outside. It was always internal. The war no one sees. The villain isn't evil. It's unexamined fear. unquestioned habits, outdated beliefs running in the background. It doesn't announce itself as destruction, it presents itself as protection. Stay small, stay comfortable, don't risk too much, don't change too fast. That voice isn't malicious, it's outdated. But if left in control, it quietly runs your life. Choice is the final weapon. Yesterday is history, his story. The one who writes the story remembered by others is the victor, not the strongest, not the loudest, the most conscious. Every day you choose whether you're reacting or responding. Reacting keeps the villain alive. Responding integrates it. You don't destroy the villain within, you understand it. And then you lead. Integration, not domination. The goal was never to erase ego, fear, or darkness. The goal was mastery. Darkness is not the enemy, it's contrast. Fear is not the enemy, it's instruction. When you integrate instead of suppress, power stabilizes. That's what real heroes do. They don't kill parts of themselves, they recruit them. Legacy is a decision. We are all heroes and villains in our own story. The question isn't whether you'll leave a mark. You will. The question is, what kind? Will your legacy be that you became the best version of someone else, or the first full version of yourself? Will you spend your life chasing competition or building coherence? The war ends the moment you stop fighting yourself. That's when your life becomes deliberate. The definition of a hero. A hero isn't someone without fear. A hero is someone who chooses alignment anyway. Someone who studies themselves, adjusts their system, respects their season, tends their garden, and acts without waiting for permission. That's it. That's the code.